The glass doors of the negotiation chamber slid open with a soft hiss. Tae-Yang stepped inside, his black diplomatic suit crisp and formal. The room was circular, with a large table in the center and windows showing the stars beyond. He had been to many meetings like this before, but today felt different. Today would decide if humanity could join the Council of Advanced Civilizations. Across the table stood Velrisa, the High Commander of the Kelthari Empire. She was tall, nearly 7 feet, with 4 powerful arms and smooth blue skin that glistened under the lights. Her people were known throughout the galaxy as warriors and conquerors. They had never lost a war. They had never bent their knee to anyone. Behind Tae-Yang, his assistant Ji-Woo entered quietly. She was young, only 25, and this was her first major diplomatic assignment. She carried a tablet with all the documents they might need. Her hands shook slightly, though she tried to hide it. Tae-Yang walked to his side of the table and bowed politely. It was a gesture of respect, something humans did when meeting others. Velrisa did not return the bow. She simply stared at him with her large yellow eyes. Her mouth curved into something that might have been a smile, but it looked more like a predator showing its teeth. "So," Velrisa said, her voice deep and rough, "Earth has sent another representative. How many is this now, 5, 6? Do you humans not understand what no means?" Tae-Yang remained standing. "I am here to discuss our application to join the council. I believe we can find common ground." Velrisa laughed. It was a harsh sound that echoed in the chamber. "Common ground? With your kind?" She walked around the table slowly, her 4 arms gesturing as she spoke. "Let me tell you what you are, human. You are barely evolved primates who learn to use fire. Your planet is still divided into warring nations. You fight among yourselves like children fighting over toys." Ji-Woo's face went red. Her fingers tightened on her tablet. But Tae-Yang remained calm. He simply stood there, his expression neutral. "Your technology is primitive," Velrisa continued. "You only just discovered faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. The Kelthari have had it for 3,000 years. You are infants playing with tools you do not understand." "Commander," Tae-Yang said quietly, "I understand you have concerns about humanity's readiness. Perhaps we could discuss specific requirements." "Requirements?" Velrisa interrupted. She was closer now, leaning across the table toward him. "The requirement is that you be civilized. You are not. Your history is written in blood. Every century, you start new wars. Every generation you find new reasons to kill each other, and you want to bring that violence to the council?" Tae-Yang did not step back. He met her eyes calmly. "Every species has had conflicts in their past. The Kelthari fought the war of... Do not compare us to you." Velrisa's voice rose to a shout. Her 4 fists slammed on the table, making it shake. "We fight when necessary and we win. You fight because you cannot control yourselves. You are animals pretending to be something more." Ji-Woo could not stay silent any longer. "That's not fair. Humans have achieved..." Velrisa's gaze shifted to Ji-Woo and the young woman fell silent immediately. The commander's look could freeze stars. "A child speaks? How appropriate. Children leading children." She turned back to Tae-Yang. "Look at you, standing there in your primitive cloth coverings. Your species cannot even agree on a single language. You have hundreds of them. Hundreds. The Kelthari have one language, one purpose, one empire. You are fractured, weak, and pathetic." For the next 20 minutes, Velrisa continued. She insulted humanity's culture, calling it shallow and meaningless. She mocked human art, saying it was crude compared to the works of older civilizations. She laughed at human science, pointing out every mistake and failure in Earth's history. She questioned human intelligence, suggesting that the average Kelthari child was smarter than the best human scientist. Then she turned her attacks personal. She looked at Tae-Yang's face and made comments about human appearance. She said humans looked like weak, hairless creatures that should be kept as pets, not treated as equals. She compared Tae-Yang to primitive, ancestors suggesting he would be better suited to living in caves than negotiating with advanced species. Through it all, Tae-Yang stood still. His face showed nothing, no anger, no hurt, no frustration. He simply listened. Jiwoo watched him, confused. Why was he not defending them? Why was he not arguing back? Every insult felt like a knife, and yet Taiyang acted as if he felt nothing. Finally, after 30 minutes of continuous verbal assault, Velrisa paused. She seemed to be waiting for a response. She wanted him to react, to fight back, to show emotion. Taiyang stood in silence for a moment. Then he reached down and gathered the documents he had brought. He placed them carefully in his folder. He smoothed his jacket. Then he looked directly at Velrisa and spoke in a quiet, steady voice. I see we have nothing productive to discuss today. He turned toward Jiwoo and nodded. We're leaving. Jiwoo's eyes went wide. But sir, now, Jiwoo. Taiyang walked toward the door. He did not hurry. He did not storm out. He simply walked at a normal pace, as if he were leaving any ordinary meeting. At the door, he paused and turned back to Velrisa. He bowed again, the same polite bow he had given when he arrived. Good afternoon, Commander. Then he left. Jiwoo scrambled to follow him, her mind spinning with questions. The glass doors closed behind them with another soft hiss. In the chamber, Velrisa stood frozen. She stared at the closed doors, her forehands slowly lowering to her sides. In all her years as a commander, in all her negotiations and confrontations, no one had ever simply walked away from her. They argued, they shouted, they pleaded. They threatened. But they never just left. Her second-in-command, Kirathal, entered from a side door. He had been watching everything through security cameras. Commander, the human... I know what he did, Velrisa said slowly. Her eyes remained fixed on the doors. The question is why. Outside in the corridor, Jiwoo caught up to Taiyang. Sir, why did we leave? We didn't even present our case. We didn't defend Earth. We just... left. Taiyang kept walking. His pace was steady and calm. Sometimes, Jiwoo, the best response is no response at all. But she insulted us. She insulted all of humanity. Yes, she did. And you just walked away? Taiyang stopped and turned to face his young assistant. His expression was gentle, almost kind. I did exactly what needed to be done. Now we wait. Wait for what? Taiyang smiled slightly. It was the first emotion he had shown since entering that chamber. For everyone to see what happens next. He continued walking down the corridor, leaving Jiwoo standing there, trying to understand what had just happened. Behind them in the negotiation chamber, Velrisa was asking herself the same question. News traveled fast on Station Valorum 9. Within an hour of Taiyang walking out of the negotiation chamber, every diplomatic office knew about it. By evening, messages were being sent across the galaxy. The human diplomat had walked away from High Commander Velrisa without saying a word in his own defense. Jiwoo sat in her small quarters, staring at her tablet. She had written a report of the meeting, but the words felt wrong. How could she explain what happened when she did not understand it herself? Taiyang had stood there like a stone while Velrisa tore apart everything about humanity. Then he simply left. It made no sense. Her communication device chimed. It was Ambassador Hana, their superior. Jiwoo, come to my office. Bring Taiyang. 20 minutes later, they both stood in Hana's office. The ambassador was a woman in her 60s with silver hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She looked at Taiyang for a long moment without speaking. Jiwoo held her breath, waiting for the storm. Then Hana smiled. That was brilliant. Jiwoo's mouth fell open. Brilliant? But he didn't defend us. He didn't argue. He just left. Hana walked to her window, which showed the massive space station and the ships docked around it. Tell me, Jiwoo, what would have happened if Taiyang had argued with Velrisa? He would have defended humanity's honor. And Velrisa would have called him emotional and proven her point that humans cannot control themselves. What if he had stayed silent but stayed in the room? Jiwoo thought about it. She would have continued insulting us. Exactly. By staying, he would have accepted the abuse. By arguing, he would have confirmed her beliefs. But by walking away, Hana turned back to them. By walking away, he did something she never expected. He took away her power. Taiyang spoke quietly. The goal was never to win the argument with Velrisa. The goal was to win with everyone else. Hana nodded. And it's working. I've received 7 messages already from other species. They're all asking the same question. Why did the human leave? They're curious, they're interested, and most importantly, they're starting to question the Kelthari position. Jiwoo's tablet beeped. She looked down at it and her eyes widened. Sir, the Drelvari have requested a meeting with you. Tomorrow morning. The Drelvari were insectoid traders known for their business sense and neutrality. They had never taken a position on the human question before. Now they wanted to talk. Accept it, Taeyang said. Over the next week, more meetings came. The Arinthians, a species of bird-like philosophers, invited Taeyang to a discussion about wisdom and restraint. 3 smaller species reached out with trade proposals. A dozen others sent informal messages of support. Meanwhile, on the Kelthari flagship, Belrissa stood in her command center. Holographic displays showed ship positions, trade routes, and diplomatic reports. One report caught her attention. It listed species that had contacted the humans in the past week. The list was long. Kirathal stood beside her. They are rallying around him, Commander. I can see that. He did nothing. He said almost nothing. Yet somehow he is winning. Velrissa's 4 hands clenched into fists. He made me look like a bully. No, Commander. You made yourself look like a bully. He simply let everyone see it. Velrissa turned sharply toward her second-in-command. Kirathal was the only one who could speak to her so directly. They had fought together for 20 years. Explain. When you insult an enemy who fights back, you look strong. When you insult someone who walks away with dignity, you look petty. Every species that heard about that meeting is now asking themselves, why did the mighty Kelthari need to spend 30 minutes insulting one human? What are we afraid of? We fear nothing. Then why do we work so hard to keep humans off the council? The question hung in the air. Velrissa had no immediate answer. She had opposed humanity because they seemed dangerous, warlike, and unstable. But now, other species were starting to question that assessment. If humans were so primitive, why did the Kelthari seem threatened by them? I want full intelligence reports on human history, Velrissa ordered. Not just their wars. Everything. Their culture, their philosophy, their methods of conflict resolution. I want to understand what that man is. Back on the station, Taeyang sat in a cafe with Jiwoo. It was a quiet place where many species came to eat and drink. As they sat there, a Drelvari merchant approached their table. His insect face was hard to read, but his voice was respectful. Ambassador Taeyang, I wanted to speak with you. Please sit. The merchant sat down, his 6 legs folding under him. I have traded with many species for 40 years. I have seen every kind of negotiation tactic. Aggression, charm, bribery, threats, but I have never seen someone walk away the way you did. It seemed like the right choice. It was more than right. It was wise. In my culture, we have a saying, the tree that bends in the storm survives when the rigid tree breaks. You bent. Velrissa tried to break you. She failed. After the merchant left, Jiwoo leaned forward. I'm starting to understand. You knew this would happen? I knew something would happen. When someone attacks you and you don't fight back, people notice. They start asking questions. Why isn't he defending himself? Is he weak? Or is he strong enough not to need to? And which are you? Taeyang smiled. That's what everyone is trying to figure out. The next day, Taeyang met with the Arinthians. They were tall, graceful beings covered in silver feathers. Their leader, a wise old female named Syra, greeted him warmly. We have watched humans for some time, she said. We were uncertain about your species. You seemed aggressive. But your action in the chamber showed us something different. What did it show you? Control. True strength is not about defeating your enemies. It is about controlling yourself. Any creature can lash out when insulted. It takes wisdom to choose restraint. The meeting went well. The Arinthians promised to support humanity's council application. As Taeyang left, Jiwoo was smiling. That's 3 species now who have changed their position. All because you walked away. But Taeyang's expression was thoughtful. It's not over yet. Velrissa is studying us now. She's realized her mistake, but I don't know how she'll respond. Pride is a powerful thing. She might double down. She might do something unpredictable. What will we do? The same thing we've been doing. We'll keep working, keep building relationships, keep showing the galaxy who humans really are. Not through words, but through actions. That evening, Velrissa received the first intelligence reports. She read them alone in her quarters. Page after page detailed human history. The information disturbed her. Humans had survived ice ages, plagues, asteroids, and countless near-extinction events. They had fought terrible wars, yes, but they had also shown remarkable ability to make peace afterward. One section caught her attention. It discussed human philosophy, concepts like Stoicism, which taught emotional control, martial arts traditions that emphasized discipline over aggression, diplomatic strategies based on patience and long-term thinking. The report included a human phrase, "Living well is the best revenge." Velrisa sat back in her chair. She had assumed human silence meant weakness. Now she wondered if it meant something far more dangerous. Control, strategy, patience. She thought about Tai Yang's face during their meeting. He had not looked afraid. He had not looked angry. He had looked calm, completely unnaturally calm, like a person who knew exactly what they were doing. A message came through her communication system. It was from Admiral Dayon, her political rival within the Kelthari government. "Commander, I hear your negotiation with the humans did not go as planned. Perhaps someone else should handle this matter." Velrisa deleted the message, but the damage was done. Word was getting out. Her position was being questioned. All because one human walked away from an argument. She stood and looked out at the stars. Somewhere on this station, Tai Yang was probably sleeping peacefully, while she stood here unable to rest, trying to figure out what had just happened. He had beaten her without saying a word, and somehow, that made him more dangerous than any enemy she had ever faced. 3 weeks had passed since the meeting. In the Kelthari Intelligence Center aboard their flagship, a team of analysts worked around the clock. Velrisa had ordered a complete investigation into humanity, and what they discovered filled dozens of reports. She read them each night, and each night she slept less. The first report covered human military history. The analyst, a veteran named Koraval, had been respectful but direct in his conclusions. "Commander, human warfare is unlike anything we have encountered. Yes, they fight among themselves frequently, but they also show remarkable restraint when they choose to." Velrisa had stopped at that word, restraint. It kept appearing in every report. The document detailed something humans called the Cold War. Two massive human nations had pointed nuclear weapons at each other for decades. They had the power to destroy their entire planet. But they chose not to. Instead, they fought through proxies, through economics, through patience. The war ended not with explosions, but with one side simply giving up. They could have destroyed themselves, the report noted, but they understood that winning meant surviving. So they waited. For 50 years, they waited. Another section discussed human sieges. Throughout history, when humans wanted to conquer a city, they sometimes simply surrounded it and waited. Months, years. They did not always attack. They just sat there patient while their enemies ran out of food and hope. The report included a human saying, "Time is a weapon for those who know how to use it." Velrisa threw the tablet across her quarters. The Kelthari way was direct combat. You identified your enemy. You attacked. You won or died. But humans seemed to understand something the Kelthari did not. Sometimes the best attack was no attack at all. The second report covered human culture and philosophy. This one confused Velrisa even more. A species that had produced such violent history had also developed complex ideas about peace and self-control. There were human monks who spent their entire lives learning to control their emotions. Warriors who trained for decades not just to fight but to know when not to fight. Philosophers who taught that the greatest strength was mastering yourself, not others. One human tradition, called martial arts, especially interested the analysts. These combat systems teach physical violence, the report explained. But more importantly, they teach discipline. Many masters say the goal is to become so skilled at fighting that you never need to fight. The ultimate warrior is one who wins without combat. Velrisa read that line 3 times. It sounded like nonsense. How could you win without fighting? But then she thought about Tai Yang walking out of that chamber. He had won without fighting, and she had fought without winning. The third report was about human diplomacy. This one troubled her most. It detailed centuries of human negotiations, treaties, and political strategies. Humans had developed something they called soft power. They influenced others not through force but through culture, economics, and careful relationship building. The report included examples of human diplomatic victories. Times when they had changed enemy nations into allies over decades of patient work. Times when they had isolated opponents not by attacking them, but by making friends with everyone else. Times when they had turned insults into advantages by simply not responding. Human diplomats are trained in emotional control, the report stated. They learn to show nothing they do not want others to see. They learn to turn attacks into opportunities. They understand that in negotiation, the one who loses their temper first usually loses everything. Kirathal entered Velrisa's quarters carrying another report. "Commander, you need to read this one. More human philosophy? More tales of their patience? No. This is about their capacity for violence when they finally choose to act." Velrisa took the tablet. This report was different. It detailed human wars where restraint had ended. The Allied response in their Second World War. The shock and awe of their Iraq campaign. The overwhelming force they used when they decided something had to be destroyed. They show remarkable restraint, the report concluded, but when that restraint ends, they do not hesitate. They do not hold back. They commit fully. The pattern suggests that human patience is not weakness. It is a choice, and when they choose to stop being patient, they are extremely dangerous. One section made Velrisa's blood run cold. It discussed a human concept called mutually assured destruction. During their Cold War, both sides knew that if they started a nuclear exchange, everyone would die. So they didn't start it. They lived with that pressure every single day, an entire planet of people who went to sleep knowing that nuclear missiles could be flying toward them at any moment. This speaks to incredible psychological endurance, the analyst wrote. To live under that threat for decades and not collapse, not panic, not make a mistake. The mental discipline required is beyond what most species could manage. Velrisa set down the tablet and walked to her viewport. Space stretched out before her, cold and infinite. She had spent her entire life believing that the Kelthari were superior because they were stronger, more aggressive, more willing to fight. But these reports suggested something else. What if strength was not about how hard you could hit? What if it was about knowing when to hit it all? Her door chimed. "Enter." Admiral Dayon walked in, his forearms clasped behind his back. He was smiling, which was never a good sign. "Commander, I have news. The Council is discussing humanity's application again. 17 species have now endorsed them. Our opposition is beginning to look unreasonable. We have valid concerns, do we? Or do we simply dislike them?" Dayon moved closer. "The Civilian Oversight Committee has asked me to review your handling of the human situation. They believe you may have made an error in judgment. I did what was necessary to protect the Kelthari Empire. By insulting a diplomat for 30 minutes, by giving him the perfect opportunity to make us look like bullies." Dayon's voice was soft but cutting. "You played directly into his hands, Velrisa, and now I will have to clean up your mess." After he left, Velrisa stood alone in her quarters. She had been a commander for 20 years. She had won every battle, every confrontation, every negotiation. Until now, until one human simply walked away. She pulled up the video recording of their meeting. Station security always recorded diplomatic sessions. She watched herself insulting Tai Yang. Watched his face stay calm. Watched him gather his papers and leave. She had seen this footage a dozen times, looking for something she missed. Some sign of weakness, some crack in his armor. But there was nothing. Just calm, just control. Just a man who knew exactly what he was doing. On the station, Tai Yang's work continued. He met with the Drelvari to discuss trade agreements. He shared human medical technology with smaller species who needed it. He attended philosophical debates with the Arinthians. Each meeting, each conversation, each small gesture added to humanity's reputation. Jiwoo watched him with growing admiration. "You haven't mentioned Velrisa once in any of these meetings." "Why would I?" "Because she insulted us. Because she's been blocking our council application for years. And if I complain about her, I look weak. If I attack her back, I look petty. But if I just do good work and build good relationships, her words start to sound hollow." Tai Yang was reviewing documents for their next meeting. The best way to prove someone wrong is not to argue with them. It's to make their words irrelevant. That evening, a message arrived in Tai Yang's communication system. It was anonymous, routed through several servers to hide its origin. But the content was clear. It was one of Velrisa's intelligence reports on humanity. Someone had leaked it to him. He read through it slowly. The report was thorough and actually quite accurate. Whoever wrote it understood humans better than most aliens did. He could see what Velrisa was doing. She was trying to understand him, trying to figure out what he would do next. He smiled slightly. Good. Let her study. Let her learn. The more she understood about humanity, the more she would realize that opposing them was pointless. Humans were patient. Humans could wait. And humans were very, very good at turning enemies into friends given enough time. Jiwoo entered his office. Sir, we just received another endorsement. The Yars Collective has added their support. That makes 20 species now. How many do we need for the council to seriously consider our application? 25 endorsements mean they have to hold a vote. Then we need 5 more. Taeyang stood up. Schedule meetings with the Torlan, the Kaishari, and the Vinth. I have some ideas. What about Velrisa? She's been quiet lately. That worries me. Taeyang looked out at the stars. She's learning. And when she's done learning, she'll have to make a choice. Double down on her position and risk everything. Or find a way to change course without losing face. What do you think she'll do? I don't know. But either way, we keep moving forward. That's what humans do best. We keep going. 3 months had passed since Taeyang walked out of that negotiation chamber. In that time, the diplomatic landscape of the galaxy had shifted in ways no one had predicted. Velrisa stood in the council observation gallery watching the proceedings below. She was not supposed to be there, but she needed to see this. Ambassador Hana was addressing the council on behalf of humanity. Her voice was clear and confident. We come before you not as conquerors but as partners. We offer our technology, our culture, and our commitment to peaceful cooperation. 23 species had endorsed humanity's application now. 23. When Velrisa had started her campaign against human membership 5 years ago, that number had been 0. And in just 3 months, Taeyang had changed everything. She left the gallery before the speech ended. She could not stand to watch anymore. In her flagship's command center, bad news waited. Kirathal stood at attention holding a data tablet. Commander, the Civilian Oversight Committee has issued a formal review of your performance. They question your judgment regarding the human situation. Velrisa took the tablet and read. The words were carefully chosen, but the meaning was clear. She had failed. Her strategy of aggressive opposition had backfired completely. The committee recommended that someone else take over the human matter. Admiral Dayon has volunteered to handle future negotiations. Kirathal added quietly. Of course he has. Velrisa set down the tablet. He sees an opportunity to make me look weak. With respect, Commander, you do not need his help for that. The entire galaxy is talking about how a single human diplomat defeated you without saying a word. Velrisa's 4 hands clenched. I was not defeated. Then what would you call it? The question hung in the air. Velrisa had no answer. She had insulted Taeyang, attacked his species and tried to humiliate him, and he had simply walked away. Now 3 months later, humanity was closer to council membership than ever before. Meanwhile, the Kelthari looked isolated and unreasonable. A message came through from the Kelthari homeworld. It was from the High Council of Elders. They wanted to speak with her immediately. That was never good. The holographic communication showed 5 elderly Kelthari. Their blue skin faded with age, but their eyes still sharp. The eldest Korath spoke first. Commander Velrisa, we have reviewed your handling of the human question. We are concerned. I acted to protect the Empire. By making enemies, by isolating us from potential allies. The other species are beginning to question our judgment. Some say we are afraid of humans, we fear nothing. Then why do we oppose them so strongly? Korath leaned forward. I have read the intelligence reports. Humans are not the savage primitives you described. They are complex, disciplined, and strategic. They might actually be valuable council members. They are dangerous. Perhaps. But so are we. So are many species. Danger alone is not a reason to exclude them. Korath paused. You have one chance to resolve this situation, Commander. If you cannot, we will assign the matter to someone else. The communication ended. Velrisa stood alone in the empty command center. One chance, but what could she do? Apologizing would be seen as weakness. Continuing her opposition would achieve nothing. She was trapped by her own actions. That night she could not sleep. She walked the empty corridors of her flagship thinking. The intelligence reports had shown her that humans understood strategy in ways the Kelthari did not. They played a long game. They built relationships. They waited for opportunities. She stopped at a viewport and stared at Station Valorum 9 in the distance. Somewhere on that station, Taeyang was probably sleeping peacefully. He had won without fighting. He had defeated her by simply being patient and disciplined. A thought occurred to her. What if she could learn from that? The next morning, Kirathal found her in her quarters. She was reviewing files on human diplomatic protocols. "Commander, I need to speak with the human, Taeyang. Arrange a private meeting." "Are you sure that is wise?" "No, but it is necessary." Kirathal hesitated. "What will you say to him?" "I do not know yet. But I cannot let Daeon take over this situation, and I cannot continue as I have been, so I must try something different." The meeting request went through official channels. It specified that Velrisa wanted to speak with Taeyang privately. No aides, no translators, no records. Just the two of them. On the station, Taeyang read the request with interest. Jiwoo stood beside him, her face worried. "It could be a trap. Possibly. She hates you. She hates all humans. Why would she want a private meeting?" "Because she is losing and she knows it." Taeyang leaned back in his chair. "The question is what she will do about it. Will she try to threaten me, offer a deal, or something else entirely?" Ambassador Hana called him later that day. "You don't have to accept this meeting. It could be dangerous. I don't think she wants to harm me physically. That would make things worse for her. Then what does she want? That is what I need to find out." Hana was quiet for a moment. "This is your decision, Taeyang. I trust your judgment. But be careful. Velrisa is desperate, and desperate people do unpredictable things." Taeyang sent his acceptance that evening. The meeting would take place in 3 days, in a neutral garden dome on the station. The dome was designed for meditation and privacy. No surveillance systems were allowed there by station law. As the days passed, Jiwoo grew more nervous. What if she attacks you? She won't. How do you know? Because violence would destroy her completely. The entire galaxy is watching now. If she harms me, the Kelthari will lose any remaining support they have. She knows this. Then what will she do? Taeyang smiled slightly. "I think she will talk." "Really talk? Not insult, not attack. Talk. And that is exactly what I have been waiting for." On the station's commercial level, gossip spread about the upcoming meeting. Other diplomats speculated about what it meant. Some thought Velrisa would offer a compromise. Others believed she would make threats. A few wondered if she might actually apologize. In a small cafe, a group of alien diplomats discussed it over drinks. A Drelvari merchant who had spoken with Taeyang before said, "I think the human has won. This meeting is just Velrisa accepting it." An Orinthian diplomat disagreed. "The Kelthari do not accept defeat. She may be planning something." "Or," said a representative from one of the smaller species, "maybe she has learned something. The human showed her a different way. Perhaps she wants to understand it." In her quarters, Velrisa prepared for the meeting. She reviewed everything she had learned about human culture and diplomacy. She thought about Taeyang's calm face when she had insulted him. She remembered how he had simply walked away. He had not fought her. He had not even argued. He had just removed himself from the situation and let her words hang in empty air, and somehow that had been more devastating than any response he could have given. She understood now. He had turned her aggression into a weakness. By not reacting, he had made her look like someone who attacked for no reason. He had transformed a confrontation into a display of restraint versus aggression, and in the eyes of the galaxy, restraint had won. Kirathal entered without knocking. "Commander, Admiral Daeon has sent a message. He says if this meeting fails, he will take over immediately. The High Council has approved his request. Then I cannot fail. But what will you say? How will you convince the human to help you?" Velrisa stood and looked at her reflection in the polished metal wall. She saw a commander who had won every battle through strength and force. But strength had not worked this time. "I will tell him the truth, that I was wrong, that I underestimated his species, and that I want to understand. The Kelthari do not admit mistakes. Then perhaps it is time we learned how." Velrisa turned to face her second. "The humans have something we lack, Kirathal. They understand when not to fight. They know that sometimes walking away is stronger than standing ground. I need to learn that. You think he will teach you? I think he will listen. And perhaps if I am honest enough, he will help me find a way forward that does not end with my disgrace and the Kelthari's isolation." 2 days remained until the meeting. Taeyang spent them preparing, but not in the way Jiwoo expected. He did not review talking points or strategy documents. Instead, he meditated. He went for long walks in the station's gardens. He seemed calm, almost peaceful. "How can you be so relaxed?" Jiwoo asked. "Because I know what I want from this meeting. And I know that Velrissa is coming to me, not the other way around. When someone asks for a meeting after opposing you for so long, they are already halfway to changing their mind. I just need to help them see the rest of the way." The day arrived. Taeyang put on his diplomatic suit and walked alone to the garden dome. Jiwoo wanted to come, but he refused. This was something he had to do alone. As he walked, he thought about everything that had led to this moment. One insult-filled meeting, one decision to walk away, and now perhaps a chance to turn an enemy into something else entirely. The garden dome was peaceful. Trees from a dozen worlds grew under the artificial sky, their leaves moving in the gentle breeze created by environmental systems. Water flowed over smooth stones in a small stream. It was designed to be a place where beings could find calm, away from the noise and politics of the station. Taeyang arrived first. He walked slowly through the garden, his shoes making soft sounds on the gravel path. He found a clearing with a bench overlooking the stream. Beyond the transparent dome walls, space stretched out forever, stars scattered like diamonds on black silk. He could see Earth's sun from here, just another distant point of light. He heard footsteps behind him. 4 heavy footfalls. Velrissa. She entered the clearing but did not approach immediately. She stood at the edge, her forearms hanging at her sides. Without her military uniform and decorations, she looked different. Smaller somehow, though she was still nearly 7 feet tall. "You came," she said. "You asked." They stood in silence for a long moment. The stream continued its quiet song. Somewhere in the trees, something that might have been a bird called out. Velrissa walked to the bench but did not sit. She stood beside it, looking out at the stars. Her back was to Taeyang, which in Kelthari culture was a sign of trust. Or vulnerability. "Do you see that star?" She pointed with one hand. "That is Kelthar, my homeworld. From here it looks like nothing, just another light in the darkness." Taeyang moved to stand beside her, keeping a respectful distance. "My home looks the same from your world, I imagine." "Yes." Velrissa lowered her hand. "When I look at it from here, it is easy to forget how important it seems when you are standing on it. Distance gives perspective. Is that what you wanted to talk about?" "Perspective?" Velrissa finally turned to face him. Her yellow eyes searched his face. "Why did you walk away?" Taeyang had expected many possible opening questions. This was the simplest and most direct, because staying would have served no purpose. "You could have defended your species. You could have argued with me. You could have shown anger. And what would that have achieved? It would have proven you had pride, that you could stand up for yourself." Taeyang smiled slightly. "Commander, proving I have pride would have proven nothing except that I have pride. I needed to prove something else entirely." "What?" "That I could control myself. That humans can choose how to respond rather than simply reacting. That we understand the difference between strength and violence." Velrissa was quiet. She walked to the stream and knelt down, touching the water with one hand. "I spent 3 months studying your species. I have read reports about your history, your culture, your ways of thinking. Do you know what I learned? Tell me. That you terrify me." Taeyang had not expected that. "Why?" Velrissa stood and turned to face him. "Because you can choose. The Kelthari are warriors. When insulted, we fight. When threatened, we attack. It is our nature, our instinct. But humans can be insulted and choose not to fight. You can be threatened and choose to wait. You can have the capacity for terrible violence and choose peace instead. That level of control combined with your capacity for destruction, it is unlike anything I have encountered. Is that why you opposed us joining the council?" "Yes, I thought if humans could not control their aggression, they would be dangerous to everyone. But now I understand the truth is worse. You can control your aggression, which means when you finally choose to act, it will be calculated, strategic, and devastating. You do not strike in anger. You strike when ready." Taeyang walked closer to her. "That is exactly why we should be on the council. We understand restraint because we know the cost of losing it. We have nearly destroyed ourselves multiple times. We learned from those mistakes." "I made a mistake," Velrissa said quietly. The words seemed difficult for her. "I insulted you. I attacked your species with words. I tried to humiliate you. And you did nothing. I did what was necessary. You made me look like a bully. You made the Kelthari look unreasonable, all by simply walking away. Velrissa's forehands clenched and unclenched. I have won every confrontation in my career through strength. But strength did not work with you. Why? Because I was not trying to win the confrontation, Commander. I was trying to win the long game. That meeting was never the real battle. The real battle was for the support of other species, for the trust of the Council, for humanity's future. You focused on the moment. I focused on the outcome. Velrissa sat down heavily on the bench. For the first time, she looked tired. I am being removed from my position. Admiral Dayon will take over the human question. He wants to use my failure to advance his own career. I am sorry to hear that, are you? Velrissa looked up at him. I tried to destroy your people's chances. I stood in your way for years. Why would you be sorry? Because losing your position serves no purpose for me. I never wanted to hurt you personally, Commander. I wanted humanity to join the Council. Those are two different goals. Most species would celebrate their enemy's fall. You were never my enemy. You were an obstacle, and obstacles can be moved, gone around, or turned into bridges. Velrissa studied his face. That is what you are doing now. Trying to turn me into a bridge, am I? A sound that might have been laughter came from Velrissa. You are dangerous, Taeyang. More dangerous than I thought possible. You turn every situation to your advantage without ever seeming to try. I am just a diplomat doing his job. No. You are a human, showing me what humans are capable of. Velrissa stood again. I came here to ask you something. I do not know if you will agree. Ask. The Kelthari will withdraw our opposition to Humanity's Council membership. This will allow your application to proceed, but I have a condition. Taeyang waited, saying nothing. You must be humanity's primary representative to the Council. You specifically. Not Ambassador Hana, not someone else, you. Why? Because you understand something we do not. You understand when not to fight. You understand patience and strategy and the long view. The Council needs that. More importantly, I need someone there who will not be provoked into mistakes. Someone who will think before acting. Someone like you. Taeyang was quiet for a moment. 3 months ago you said I was not worthy to negotiate with you. 3 months ago I was a fool. And now? Velrissa moved closer, until she was standing directly in front of him. Her 4 eyes looked down at him. Now I understand that strength is not just about how hard you can hit. It is about knowing when to hit it all. You taught me that. You taught me by walking away when I expected you to fight. What about Admiral Dayon? What about your position? If you agree to this condition, I will present it to the Council myself. I will recommend humanity's membership personally. That will undermine Dayon's plans and show the High Council that I can still be useful. It may save my position, or it may not, but either way it is the right thing to do. Taeyang extended his hand, a human gesture of agreement. Velrissa looked at it, confused for a moment. Then she understood and wrapped one of her 4 hands around his. Her grip was strong but not crushing. I accept your condition, Taeyang said. I will represent humanity on the Council, and I hope that in doing so I can work with the Kelthari rather than against them. Work with us? After everything? The past is done, Commander. The question is what we do next. Humans believe in second chances. We believe people can change. I think you have changed, and I think together we might do good work. Velrissa released his hand. The other species will think this is strange. The Kelthari who opposed you most strongly now supporting you. Let them wonder. Understanding that former enemies can become allies might be good for the Council. They walked together through the garden toward the exit. As they went, Velrissa spoke quietly. Can I ask you something personal? Yes. During that meeting, when I insulted you for 30 minutes, what were you thinking? Taeyang smiled. I was thinking about a human phrase. It says that living well is the best revenge. I decided that instead of getting revenge, I would simply live well. Do good work. Build good relationships. Show the galaxy who humans really are. Everything else would follow from that. And it did. It did. They reached the dome exit. Before she left, Velrissa stopped and looked back at him. Thank you. For what? For not destroying me when you could have. For giving me a chance to correct my mistake. Not all species would be so generous. Humans believe in hope, Commander. Hope that people can be better. Hope that enemies can become friends. Hope that the future can be different from the past. If we did not believe in hope, we would have destroyed ourselves long ago. 6 months later, the Galactic Council held a formal ceremony. Representatives from hundreds of species gathered to witness Earth's official acceptance as a council member. Tae-yang stood on the central platform, wearing formal diplomatic robes. Ambassador Hana stood beside him, beaming with pride. Ji-woo was in the audience, crying happy tears. Velrisa sat in the Kelthari section, her military decorations restored. The High Council had not removed her after all. Her honest recommendation of humanity's membership had actually strengthened her position. Admiral Daeon sat 3 seats away, his face unreadable. As Tae-yang took the oath of membership, Velrisa watched. 3 months ago, she had called this human barely evolved. She had mocked his species as primitive and violent.